going on, everybody? It's Corey from the Breakevens, and as always, with me today is Jack.
Hello.
So, Jack, our last team preview for the pre-season. You
And the
excited?
longest.
And the longest? Yep, bloody Richmond. Nah, I I don't know about you, but I'm super excited to get into the other content that we have coming in the next few weeks. Our top tens are there and our predictions, and we've got a few team reviews almost on our own teams coming. So it's all looking exciting ahead. Before we get started, let's go through the socials. So you can find us on Twitter at BreakeVensPod. A lot of people following us on there, and we're always there to help anyone with any questions or inquiries. So don't forget to follow us there at Breakevens Pod, and we're on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Search the Break Evens. Again, with the YouTube, click the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds. We're posting 2 videos a week there at the moment, so things are buzzing. All right, so today we're going through Richmond, St Kilda, Sydney, the Eagles, and the Bulldogs. So strap yourselves in. Jack's going for about 4 hours with the Tigers. Jack, who's your best Richmond primo?
Every single name on the list.
That's not Jason Castagna.
No, so best primo, it's pretty obvious. Jason Castagna. Tim Taranto, 503.1k, average of 91.4. I had a look last night, and he has exactly 50% ownership.
Oh.
So, even if he's a bust, it's not a bust because everyone fucking has him.
Yeah, no, very true.
We know with news that came out the last couple of days that he has been given a main midfield role. There's no silly sit at full forward for half of the game like at the Giants, the dickheads. And with the midfield group that's set to be around him, he looks like he's gonna explode. So I think he is a big get, especially as a forward, knowing that he's practically just playing midfield. Makes it even more exciting than when we just chucked him at the start because he joined Richmond.
Yeah, the only thing going against him is he's a bit of a butcher, so he needs those extra possessions and tackles to bump his score up. But he has the potential to go 110 plus. So, yep. I spoke to you about this earlier today, Jack, but I
You fucking
stupidly
dingles.
I was going through my best primo. And I totally forgot about Tim Taranto. So I've gone with Toby Nankervis, 531k ruck. Um, I put here Richmond was bloody tough to pick a primo, but Taranto was there. So, um, but I've gone the Nank. The reason being he's usually a pretty consistent scorer, and he played 22 games last season and averaged 96. I had eight tons last year with some huge scores of 134, 135, 141, and 158. With a fresh looking midfield, as Jack was saying with Taranto, and we'll probably get to Hopper soon, he has the potential to improve his scoring, but we'll need to lift that floor as he had a low score of 49 last year. I do think he is more of a draft option, but all the ruckmen are going down with injuries at the moment, so why not Nank? Yep. All right, mate. So we'll move on to the best rookie.
So I'm basing this off. There's been the big injury to Gibcus, who's missing at least the first 4 weeks.
Yep.
So that's made me go and pick my boy Bigoa Neon at
Oh,
150.3k. An average of 39 in the one game he played. With Gibcus's injury, I think he's the one who comes in for it. With how Ben Miller played last year as that forward second ruck, I can't see him playing as that defender to relieve Gibkiss while he's out. So I think um, quick, agile, key defender. He's not going to score well. He's probably not going to make that much money, especially if he goes off last year with his big 39. But I think he's got a spot for round one, so that's why I've selected him.
Yeah, fair. I was not seeing that selection, and to be fair, I didn't even know Gibcus was injured. So,
Oh yeah, hamstring. He's got
hang
6 odd weeks out.
well, Jack, my best rookie is the man, the myth, the legend. Samson Ryan, 123k, ruck forward.
Yes.
He's only played the one career game and is averaging a monstrous -1. How isn't he under 100k? Like, surely he's the first person ever to go under 100k.
Well, funny story. When I was looking at the Eagles before, they've got a rookie who has double his average in -2. Why fucking king?
Well, one reason why I selected Samson Ryan is because I think he can take out the Aiden Bonner Club trophy. But other than that, Richmond don't really have any rookies that I think will get a game. But now I heard Gilchrist is out. That could change. Um,
There is one, but it's a small chance, and that's that Steely Green
yeah, yeah.
midfielder.
Um, I feel like Samson Ryan will get a run. Um, ho- could potentially get a run early, but his only chance of playing is if both Soldo and Dank really go down with injuries, or if
No, no.
Rewald
If a
and Lynch.
Lynch or Rewald gets injured, he'll come in and play forward and ruck.
Yeah, so he's basically last man standing. He has
Oh, of course.
DPP, which helps, and he could be a slightly pricier loophole option that might generate you some cash if everything works out. So, not the worst option, but if you're going for a pure loophole, then you obviously have Nick Madden from GWS, who is 21k cheaper. But yep, Samson Ryan, get around him. Break out a mid pricer, mate.
So I've gone the obvious Jacob Hopper, but before I get into Hopper, there's two names with the news that I'm saying look out for
Here
that
we
could
fucking go.
possibly go big, and one of them is Tyler Sonzi.
Oh, okay.
He's a 300k forward mid, and with the news of Dustin Marlin, Bolton, and Cochin practically playing forward all game, he's one I can see getting that boost to the midfield. He's best 22. He was last year in the last 6 games. He showed in the midfield he was capable and at half forward as well. But I think with the news of Cochin sliding into the forward line, he's that like bench midfielder
Yep.
that will rotate with Prestia, Hopper, and Taranto. And the second one is D Trent Cochin. I wanted to put him here, but Hopper's the obvious choice. Playing half forward, he did it in the last 4 rounds last year, and he had 3 times over 100. I'm pretty sure two of them were over 110, and a low score of 95. If he does that and he gets forward DPP, he can obviously be a great upgrade forward choice.
Yep.
Obviously, I didn't put him because the risk factor is massive, but with that news, it can be an option to upgrade in the forward lines.
Yep.
But
I I was reading something today, and he will start forward and then push up onto like a wing and into that midfield as almost an extra on baller. So it's not the worst role, but it's also not the best.
like he played it last year and he's shown
Yeah.
he can score with it. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
But with the mid price, like I said, Jacob Hopper, 332k, the obvious choice. Had an average of 67 in 7 games. We know he's getting full time mid like Taranto. He's not going to be sitting on a half forward flank for 30-40% of the game. He's inside mid. That's it. I believe he can average 90 to 100, and so I'd say 95 as a middle, which is a great stepping stone with his price. But he's shown in his career he can get injured, so it is a little bit of a risk. But we know if he stays, he's going to make money for us and be a great stepping stone.
Yep, I've gone Hopper as well. As Jack said, 332k mid. We've heard everything about him. He's basically a lock if he's fit for round one. He's an absolute ball that tackles, and he should have that pure midfield role unless something crazy happens in pre-season. He's priced at a 60 average, meaning he only needs that 90 to 95 to make that 150k. So he's averages that in the season in 2019, 2020, and 21, with a 97 being his highest in 2021. So absolutely lock him in there, I think. Who's your avoided trap, mate?
Noah Bolter, he absolutely poleaxed Dimmer the other day in
Oh,
training.
was that what happened? Okay, I heard about it, but I didn't see
He
any
fucking
footage.
sent him to the shops, but no, my avoid is Shy Bolton.
Okay, yep,
An average of 87.3, and that's with 30-40% midfield time. With the news coming out that he's practically going to spend most of the time forward, his super coach scoring is not going to elevate. It will be lucky to stay at that 87. Um, so with the role he's been given, I can't see him being a viable option, especially when you got a man at the same price in Dustin Martin, who will score at least 90 odd a game. Um, so that's why I'm going with the avoid on Big Shy Bolton.
yep. Definitely a good one there. He showed glimpses, but with the two big ins, I don't see that role there. So very good. I've gone Jaden Short at 543k as a midfielder. I've put here, fuck this guy. The last two seasons, he goes 50 plus disposals in preseason games on the halfback. So I bite and start him, and then I'm stuck with a bloke that scores 70 and 80 and loses me 100k.
Fuck you, guy.
He did start off the year on fire, but with Rioli in the defense, that has hurt his scoring, in my opinion. And with him moving up onto the wing, it really hasn't helped his scoring at all, as we saw towards the end of last year. So stay the fuck away, never
I
again.
I can see him going back to the defense.
Yeah, but
I think round one he
Rioli's
starts
there.
halfback flank, which he showed last year with Rioli when they both played together. He was still getting 110 plus, but you have to see how he goes at the start. If he does push back to the halfback and how he's scoring,
Yep,
he could be a good DPP pick later on, but he's an avoid to start for
yep,
sure.
yep. Definitely. It's just a bit unclear on his role. Like he was chucked around everywhere last season, so who knows?
Played
Uh,
forward pocket one game.
yeah, exactly. All right, mate. Who's your under the radar pick?
So I'm quite happy because my under the radar pick is your primo pick in Toby Nankervis.
Oh, the tank.
531k, average of 96.5. Like he said, for the first time ever. You didn't say this ever. He played a full 22 game year. And he's been able to produce monster scores, like you said, two in the 130s, one in the 140s, and one in the 150s. If he can get rid of his low of 49 and the like 6 or 7 80s you see him get, he can easily be a top averaging ruckman as he's shown with most of his scores. He's got a high ceiling, and he can be a great pod ruckman, especially with all the injuries to the cheaper ruckman going out there. And knowing that he's practically the number one ruckman every game is also a big green light towards his name, and he has like no one selecting him in their teams, which makes him a fantastic pod choice.
Yep. I've got Nick Vlostian, 548k defender, one of I think three gingers I'll be talking about today. Um, he really is the only bloke apart from Hopper and Taranto that has the ability to score points. He has averaged over 93 times, and last year being his highest at 99. He's a great intercepting defender, and marker, and is used as the switch man, meaning he gets easy marks and kicks and usually goes at a high kicking rate. He's a safe bet, but you want him to ideally go 105 to be a legitimate option. So definitely
which
a
he's shown
draft.
he can do if he stays fit.
Yeah, so definitely a draft option to start though. All right, mate. Let's move on to St Kilda. So who's your best primo for the Saints?
Well, I think there's only one option here, and that is the Steely man himself, Jack Steele, at 604.4k, average of 109.8. Had a drop in his scores from the year before and only played the 18 games. He had that hamstring, wasn't it?
Nah, shoulder.
Shoulder, yep, one of the two. It's always either a hamstring or a shoulder with everyone, so 50-50 choice. Um, but I'm legitimately saying he's a mid pricer with the price he's at with what we know he can go. He's gonna do nothing but go up. He burnt me last year. I started him, and I'm now like, I'm not starting you again. I'm not starting you again. But at 604k, it's a very hard not to. Um, he's going to be at his best again this season. Um, expect a boost in his average. I'm saying at a minimum he will average is 115, but I can see him going back over that 120 mark, 120 to 123, not the big 125 he had 2 years ago. But he should be a lock at his price.
Yeah. I think we both tipped him to be the highest scoring midfielder last year, and that didn't quite work out, did it?
Nah, not at all.
um,
Wanker.
I went Jack Steele as well, so 604k mid. Off year last year for Steele, scoring 109 average, where the last 2 years he's gone 120 plus, with 126 in 2021 being his highest. Had a few injuries last year, wasn't just the shoulder. I think there was a few niggles, which is why he dropped his average. But the bloke is tough as nails. He tackles, so there's easy points there. And under a usually defensive minded Ross Lyon, he could get back to those 120s that we are used to, just as long as he doesn't make him tag, which I don't think he will because he's their only player. There's definitely plenty of value there, and if you can squeeze him in, I can't see it going poorly at all. It's a lock if you can fit it. All right, mate, your best rookie.
I was gonna go with that Philopolu or however you say it at
Philip,
100.
yep.
Yeah, at 166k. But I can't look past the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Caulfield at 208k. Didn't play a game last year, but he's shown he can average 79, which was season 2020, in an injury interrupted year. We are hoping he can at least show that again this year, and if not, enhance his game. I think he's a very solid, under the radar, I guess you can say, rookie option at that 208k because he's on the expensive side, but he's got upside to it as well. He's shown he can turn up. He'll be on his halfback flank. So I'm going with Nicholas Caulfield because why not?
Yep, he's definitely someone I'm looking at, and probably someone I'll put in if an Elliot Yeo or Jack Bowes gets injured or is ready for round one. But I've got Mateus Philippou at 166k mid forward. The kid's been compared to Fife and Dangerfield. He's 190 centimetre mid forward at around 90 kilos. He's a great overhead mark and he hits the scoreboard often. The only knock on him is his consistency, which happens with most rookies though. And he's kicking. He can be a bit of a butcher sometimes. I can definitely see him playing this season, and if that's round one, it could be a great rookie choice for us, even though he is at a slightly elevated price. Um, I think there's definitely some value there, and he should find some consistency in that St Kilda lineup. So, all right, let's go to the breakout and mid pricer.
Well, 2 years ago, I believe it was, I selected this man. We weren't doing a podcast, we weren't around, but you would know I was all over this bloke. And he started the season like he was going to show it, and then that Adelaide bloke went and broke his fucking jaw, and that's Hunter Clark. at 315.2k, average of 57.3 in 8 games last year. I think this year is his year. He's shown he can play in the midfield. He's shown he can play on the wing, and he's shown he can play at half back. With Ross Lyon, he's still going to be a starter, no question about that. His problem is he always gets injured. Every year there's something, like that year 2020, he was looking good, and then bang, he just got clocked. Dirty play, but it just had to be him to catch it. He has shown he can average 81 in that. Pretty sure it was either the season before that 2020 year or the season after. Hopefully Clark can stay away from those weird injuries and being the easy target, and also show a consistent year of footy for the Saints, as we've seen him be able to score 40s and 50s at a regular occurrence as well.
Yep, I've gone Hunter Clark as my mid-pricer as well. 315k defender. When you think of injuries at St Kilda, you think of Clark, unfortunately. But he gets injured in the most ridiculous ways, like his teammate smashing his face in half. He has the potential to score if he has a midfield role. We have seen him off the halfback the last few years, and his scoring output hasn't been great, and has seen a bit of a drop. Um, he's only played 16 games in a season once, and that was in 2020. That was the COVID year when there was only 17 games. He's priced at a 57 average, so he needs 87 to 92 to make 100, 150k. He has the potential to do that if he has an inside role, or at least gets some decent mid minutes there. So keep an eye out on his role, but he has some definite value there. If he can secure that. So, all right, we'll move on to our void and trap. Who you got?
Sit on your couch, it's Brad Crouch. 571k at an average of 103.7. He averaged 103.7, so you're there like, what the fuck? He only had 6 scores over 100 for the year. Or no, 10 scores over 100, 6 of them at that minimum of 115 we're looking for. That's no good. He's shown that he can go big and score a 140, a 150, but he's also shown he can score 6 weeks of 70s. He's a handball merchant. He doesn't know that he's got a foot, and he's the most inconsistent primo midfielder we can find. It's got to be a massive avoid. I'm sorry, Mr. Crouch, but your brother was better.
Yeah, there was a couple of years ago where it was about 400k, so there's value there. There's no value now. So I've gone Jack Sinclair, 626k defender. He absolutely thrived off the halfback last year. The ball was run through him and even found his way into the midfield at times. He's one of their best ball users and showed great consistency last year. 19 tons from 23 games at an average of 113. It's pretty insane that. So five of those were scores over 130, with his highest being a flat 150. But is this his max? Is this the best of Sinclair? That's my only, I guess, con is, can he repeat what he did? We'll wait and see with a new coach. He could potentially, um, hit the same, but new coach, possibly new role, new system. It's a bit up in the air, and I feel like he is overpriced. I can see him going 105, 108 this year, so a small decrease in average, but I think we can get him under 600k sometime during the season, especially early. So he's an avoid and trap for me. All right, Jack, you're under the radar pick.
Jack Sinclair. The highest averaging defender for the year, right? And he's got the lowest ownership in the defense primos. Top 5, I should say, because Shannon Hearn at 6 doesn't count. I'm sorry. If that doesn't scream under the radar, I don't know what does. He's only got the 9% ownership, and that's on par with Hamish's brother Angus, who averaged 13.7 less points. Like, yes, he's probably a little overpriced, but why are people in my eyes? Why are people jumping in an Angus Brayshaw as much as a Jack Sinclair when we know Jack Sinclair is going to go at a minimum 105, max 115, and we know Jack Sinclair is going to have those scores in the 130s to 150s, where Angus Brayshaw, even though we spoke about him as a smoky or an under the radar pick, he's ceilings around 105 as a top score, 105, 110. He's not going to get many scores above that. So for me, I'm seeing a big scream in my ear. I'm hearing voices like Randy Orton saying under the radar, not RKOUDR. So that just bamboozled me, and when I saw that, I had to jump on him with under the radar. Is he going to go down in price? Most likely. Is he going to be a top three defender? Yes.
So a few things on that. I think people are going Brayshaw because it looks like he's got that role, um, which he dominated last year. So technically, Brayshaw is underpriced and has a bit of value. So there's a selection there. And you saying his ceiling is at 110 is completely wrong. He can go 140, 150 if he has an absolute blinder. So I
That's if he has a blinder. Jack Sinclair's shown he can do it over multiple occasions where Brayshaw does it once or twice a year.
Yeah, but being at that price, as we know, if for those listening or watching, if you watch the magic number video that I put out, looks like our primos are going to drop cash quicker at the start. So we can get Sinclair at a 550, which Brayshaw is, but Brayshaw being underpriced could go up to 600. So you're actually making profit there. So I think that's why. My under the radar is Bradley Hill, 418k defender forward. Someone we have waited and waited to see if he can break out, but has either gotten injured or just struggled with consistency. The emergence of Sinclair seemed to hurt him a lot last year, and he only hit the ton twice. But he looked to be a consistent 80s player. I've heard a few things that Lyon wants him to play to his strengths on the half back and get the ball in his hands more to run and carry. In a perfect world, I see him going 100, but I'll wait till I see it happen. But I want to keep my eyes on his role and how him and Sinclair work in tandem. So, yeah, Bradley Hill. All right, let's go through Sydney now. So, who's your best primo? I think there's only one option.
And it's your second ginger. Callum Mills, 642.4k, an average of 116.7. Mills had an amazing year, especially at the start of the year. We saw a whopping 214 score in round six.
Yep.
He had a low of 60, but this guy is one of the best mids in the league, not just football wise, but super coach wise as well. A big reason to look out for him, especially that he is a very lovely pod choice, seeing he's only got 7% ownership. A lot more people going after someone like the Bon as they're expecting more out of him this year, so a higher ceiling. But Callum Mills, we know his role, it's set in stone. That midfielder role, 116.7, has the ceiling as he showed last year to go over 200. That is a big factor that 7% ownership are going to love when if he can pull it off again, and he's playing people who have Bond who will go big with possibly a 150, but then they're still 60 70 points below what Millis has done. So he's a very interesting choice, and at that 7% ownership, I reckon it makes him look even more tasty.
Yep, I've got Mills as well. So 642k mid. He's Mr. Fix It. He's the most talented player at Sydney. 3 straight years of 100 plus, and last year was his highest at 116. the kid could go and average 120, 125 easily, but for some reason, Horse Longmire loves to play him deep in defence if they start to lose momentum. He had 17 tons last year with 8 scores over 130 and 2 monsters of 167 and 214, as Jack said. He has the scoring potential, as you can see, but all just depends on a horse and what he does with him. Um, if they're in front and the other team kicks a few quick goals and it starts to tighten, Mills goes straight into defense for some reason. So I can't hate the pick at all. I just can't do it personally just because the role that Horse can give him, and that's why he scored those 60s as Jack spoke about. So that's two gingers down. So Jack, who's your best rookie?
My second ginger of the night, I believe, and it's Aaron Francis. I spoke to you about him. Was it Friday or something
I
like
think
that? And
so.
I'm like,
Yep.
I noticed, I noticed him sitting there at 189.4k at a new club with an average of he had an average of 43 in 4 games for Essendon. Now that just says that it's Essendon. No one scored well for Essendon. Um, I think he's a massive outsider when it comes to rookie selections, especially in the defense. People are looking at the Bows and Yos and all those players that can go big and but are injury prone. I'm looking here. Aaron Francis, 189.4k. Yes, he's about 30k more expensive, but what I'm saying with this is a Patty McCartan V2, a big defender who no one expects to do well and goes and gets solid 70 scores every week. I can see Francis making money, getting to that 300, 350k mark to upgrade. He looks like a very interesting choice, and he's a ginger, and he's left the shit club, so that's why I've gone with him.
Yep, I've gone the same. So my third ginger, Aaron Francis, 189k defender forward, moved over from the Bombers, averaged 80 in 2018 as an intercepting defender, but he only played 5 games due to injury. He's never played a full season because of injuries, and he fell out of favour at the Bombers. Swans picked him up, and he's priced at a 34 average, so he only needs a 69 average to make 150k. He's only done that one time, and that was that 2018 year, so not good signs there. He has an opportunity to make a name for himself, but I only see him getting near that score if he is playing in the Swans' defence and not on a wing or stuck up forward. For me, honestly, I think it's between him and the mystery man Will Gould to break into that 22. So he might not even be 22. He might be the sub risk. So be weary, but they don't really have any other rookies I see making a debut. So, all right, mate, who's your breakout and mid pricer?
I'm going out there with an interesting selection. I'm going with the florist himself, Oliver Florent, at 372.9k. Um, he had an average of 67.7, but he played mostly off the halfback. He had a very inconsistent year going from a midfielder to a halfback, which you'd expect, a new role, young player, but he showed some promise off there. Like I said, it's a cheeky selection, Mr. Florist, Ollie Florin. I can see him having a big year, another year off that halfback. If not, he goes into the midfield. It just helps it even more because he's shown good scoring in the midfield with averages in the 70s. I can see him pushing to those high 80s, low 90s. So it's an interesting pick. I think he makes around that 100k to whop up. But he could absolutely surprise us, like all florists do, bumping their prices up on the flowers. And he could go big and be a keeper as well, especially with his youth and his ability with ball in hand. He can definitely go big. So look out for the florist.
Nice, nice. I wasn't expecting that. I've gone the basic Chad Warner, 532k mid. He was the only Swan to show up in the grand final last year, and he's bumped up his average by a whopping 35 points from his second. No, sorry, 35 points in his second year and another 28 points last year. Can he go the next step and get another 14 to 20 points? We'll soon find out. He had 12 tons last season with two over 130 and a high of 155, but he had a low of 47. He plays in an inconsistent role that sees him on a wing a fair bit, and that shows in his roller coaster scores. He does get some CBAs, but then he pushes wide. Um, he's tipped for a pure inside mid role, but with Horse at the helm, anything can happen. As I said, their best player, they chuck in defense. Um, he will be a pod selection, but I'd prefer to go Green, LDU, or a Mitchell instead. All right, Jack, who's your avoid and trap, mate?
Well, last year we both called the decrease and we saw it. Just like every other type of bird, I hate him. He is a seagull, and it is a Lloyd. At 507.3k, I'm calling it now. His Supercoach days are done and dusted. Averaged a 92.1, which is the first time under 100 since 2017, which also goes with the lowest score he scored since 2017. Only had 7 tons. I think there are better options around his price, especially cheaper. The only reason I can see a Jake Lloyd being picked is if you're doing a draft and you need someone who can score at least 90s. That's about it. He is now in the Brodie Smith club of never again, even though Brodie Smith's been in there for about 6 years.
Yep, nice. Yeah, I think with the Lizard going back there and doing so well, um, yeah, Lloyd's kicked on a little bit. Mine is Isaac Heaney at 557k as a forward. He finally hit the ton last year. He played every game for the first time since 2019. He's been tipped for more midfield every year, but what I've heard is he's going to play and start forward and then play some midfield. So there's been actually some clarification for once. Not super coach friendly, and unfortunately, I can see another injury plagued season. I don't know why, but I think there's a big injury coming.
The gut feeling, eh?
Yep. He has the potential to hit the 140s, but also hits the 50s a lot. I just think there's better options to go and at a cheaper price to stay away from Isaac. All right, mate, under the radar.
Isaac Heaney. No, I'm joking. Errol Goulden, 472k, an average of 85.7. Someone who I was contemplating putting in my mid price, but I'm like, you know what? Let's go cheeky with the mid price, but talk about him with the under the radar, as he only has 3% selection. Like I said, averaged 85.7 last year. Showed some really good signs, pushing his average up by 11, and he had 6 tons, with two of them being over 130. The problem with Gordon and why his average was only an 85.7 is because he can be inconsistent and score 50s, 60s, and 70s often. If he can get more consistent with his scoring. That average of 85.7 last year would have been up close to 95, and I can see him getting that, if not a bit more. And with him at only 3% in selected size, I can see he's got value at 472k, but he can also be a mainstayer in our forward line. So Errol Gordon, look out for him.
Yep, I went Gordon as well. So 472k mid forward. I was huge on this kid at the end of last season and the start of this preseason. We can all remember the 130 average at the start of his rookie season where he went bang bang. But so he has the potential to go 100, but only if he gets more mid time. I feel, which I've heard he could get. But what I saw last year is majority forward, and then he pushes up onto the wing and it's that midfield there. Very hard to choose him at the moment, but would be a very risky pick. But I just think he's too awkwardly priced as well. So yeah, Errol Goulden there. Let's move on to the Weagles, West Coast Eagles. Jack, who's your primo?
I mean, there's only one option. I'm sorry. There's one option, and that's it. And that is Shannon Hearn at 577.8k. My king, I had him every year for a good 5, 6 years, and he always delivered for me. The man who's 95 years old and still one of the most consistent defenders, Supercoach wise, in the league. He was the sixth highest scorer. He's got a 0% ownership, which makes him very interesting pod choice. But his problem is, again, last year only played 19 games. With the age of 95, injuries come, calf injuries galore, hamstrings galore, especially we know with his big booming left foot still at 95. He can kick it 60 to 70 meters off a drop punt, but that's just only going to tear his strings even more. Sadly, I think it's a void as well because of his injuries. But when it comes to West Coast Primos, he's the only option, and we know he can average a consistent 100 to 110 every year for us. So he's an interesting but very risky, scary pick.
Yep, I've got Hearn as well. 557k defender. Old man calves pulled up okay last season, playing 19 games with an average of 104. 12 tons with a high of 156, but had a low score of 46. Usually a consistent scorer when he plays, which lately is rarely. And he's one kick away from pinging a hammy or a calf. Not a selection at all, but the Eagles don't really have any other worthy primos, so you've got to go with Banger Hearn. Okay, your best rookie.
I've gone with Chesser again, 123.9k, which I think is cheaper than last year. I think
Yes.
he was around 148 last year, which is an interesting selection in itself. He's one that I can see fighting and getting around one spot. We expected him to play at some point last year, which somehow didn't happen with the 950,000 injuries the West Coast Eagles had and
He
950,000 COVID selections.
he was part of the 950,000 injuries.
That
That's why.
that'll explain it, and obviously the 950,000 COVID positive cases in the club. I think he gets his spot this year, and at that price, especially defender mid in that defense. If you're scared of going a Caulfield Bozio, you can go him, save some cash, and yeah, go Chesser. It's a game of chess, not checkers.
But before I tell you mine, Chester at the moment he is trying to come back from injury. So he's slowly building up. If he's not there round one, he's definitely there by I reckon round 3 or 4. Um, they do rate him, and there's a spot on the wing there for him. So yeah, just if he's in round one, then you have to select him. I've got Ruben Gimby, 171k defender mid. One of a few rookies impressing in pre-season, but Gimby is a step above, in my opinion. He's a big body boy who thrives in the contest, can play defense, can run through the midfield, and has clean hands and good strength. He needs to work on his kicking and working on his outside game, so spreading from the contest, but should play round one and is a lock in our sides. All right, mate, who's your breakout and mid price? There's a couple here.
I've gone with, I believe it was the chat we had where I went on an absolute rampage with people selecting him over like someone else. I think it was a Facebook chat. I don't think it was on a podcast, but it's Elliot Yo at 337k, an average of 68 in 5 games, and he's in 39% of teams. So even if he does do his expected injury in the first couple of weeks, everyone has him, so it's not really going to hurt you, especially if it's early on. Destroying it in training, back to his favorite lovable halfback flank role. Like I said, if he doesn't get injured in preseason, it's a certain lock. We've seen with his best, he can average around that 110 mark going off previous seasons. I think he had a 3-year run where it was 105 to 110 average before his injuries happened. If he can get to his best and stay healthy, I can see him averaging 100 to 105, which could be a D6 spot. So if he stays healthy, he has the potential to be a mainstayer. If he doesn't go that high, he's going to make money to go up to a Sicily or a Sinclair or a Stewart. And if he gets injured in the first couple of rounds, you can either downgrade him to a rookie and you got 200k in the bank to play with, or you can even upgrade him if you got the cash. I don't really see it as a risky pick, as a lot of people are jumping on him, unlike most injury prone players. But it also is the risk because you'll be there wasting a trade at the start if he does go down. But
Yep.
most people will.
So his role, you are half right on his role. He's actually midfield and then resting on half back. So the way it's looking like it's going to work out is you have Sheed, Kelly, Yo starting midfield, and then Yo resting half back, and then Gimby goes into the midfield. So that's what the rumors are at the moment. So
What about the man that loves a shoey, Luke Shuey?
he's looking more of a outside like a wing role.
So he's going
Um,
to be the Andrew Gaff.
but he's injured most of the time. So
Well, yeah, well, that's the same with Yo, like, and
yeah.
she. You plan them to play somewhere, but they're not going to play there for long, usually.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Dom Sheed, he's my breakout of mid prices, 332k mid. The name that haunts me and so many others, and I'm not happy that I have to talk about him, but he provides a lot of value for our sides.
Great kick, but
Shut up.
like, honestly, if it wasn't a grand final and you being a Collingwood fan being against it, everyone, including Collingwood fans, would be saying that was a bloody fantastic goal.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on from that bullshit. Um, He has a season high average of 95, which he got in 2019, but he's been plagued by injury the last few years and only could muster one game last year where he scored a 67. He's priced at a 60 average and needs a 90 to 95 like Hopper to make his 150k. He's looking to have a pure mid roll so far this season, and if he keeps that role, he can easily hit that 90. He has been in and out of my side because he's in the same situation as Hopper. So will you be able to pick both, or do you just have to pick one? It all depends on our rookie structures, but I think he's a safer pick than Yo, but Yo has more potential and scoring output. All right, let's move on to our void and trap. Who do you have?
Well, I think there's only one person that both of us can have, and that is the Man Mountain, Nick Natanui. 537.5k and averages 97. Played 8 games last season. Had a serious, I believe, another knee injury, but it was definitely a serious injury. When he's fit, his problem is he only plays a maximum of 50% game time. And he averages 97 in that 50%, which means like if he could push that up to 60, 70, he's there scoring an average of around 115, 120, which is absolutely ridiculous. But you can't be selecting someone to play around 50% game time because if he has a game where he's not on fire, his score is going to be a lot lower than a Nankervis, a Grundy, a Marshall who's playing 60, 70% of games for their low scores.
Yep.
Um, I think there's a lot better options around him, especially Nankervis being around the same price, maybe a little bit cheaper, but obviously you got Grundy and Marshall lower. Um, so I think it's an avoid because we can see a Nick Nut injury come at any time, and with his game time, it's just way too scary, even if he plays a full 22 to pick him.
Yep. So Nick Natanui is known to be the highest scorer per minute that he plays. It's just as you said, he doesn't play many minutes. So he could definitely be a selection, but yeah, he just doesn't play enough. My avoidant trap is Alex Witherden, 552k defender, 13 games last season at an average of 92. He had 7 tons and did his work early in the season before getting injured. He had a high of 154 and a low of 63. He relies on kick-ins and marks to score his points, and with Hearn playing most games last season, that affected his kickouts and lowered his scoring. If he can stay fit and Hearn doesn't, he can easily go 100 to 110 and be a great pod choice, but it's a very risky pick as he's also injury prone. All right, Jack, who's your under the radar?
Well, I struggled, so I've gone with the man who's that under the radar that Adam Simpson forgets about him sometimes when he's selecting a team, and that's Alex Witherden. Um, every year he seems to average over 100, but with most cases, last year he had an injury for a little bit, but then Adam Simpson never selected him. But he's so under the radar that the coaches' boards in team selection just forget about him. They're like, oh, we need a defender. Let's look at our options, and then there's Alex Witherden all the way on the other side of the board. Just I think he does. I swear he does something where it was the same at Brisbane where they just wouldn't select him, not
Yeah.
because he's not good enough, because he's done something. I don't know what he's done. I don't know if the devil lives inside him or something, but no one loves selecting him. But under the radar with the West Coast Eagles was very hard for me, so I had to go a man who averages 100, and his coach never selects him for who knows why. But he's got the ability to play every week, and he's got the ability to average over 100. Like it's like a piece of cake for him. Like Reece Matheson, they play a couple of games every year, but they have a high average, and then they just never get selected again. It's crazy.
Yeah. At Brisbane, it was mostly injuries and then found it hard to make the team. But I think Hearn playing a lot last year probably hurt him there. So, yep. Mine, Jack, you probably didn't even know that this guy plays for West Coast. My under the radar is Jaden Hunt, 285k defender. This is an interesting one and someone that has popped up very recently. He's come over from the D's and he's looking to slide into a half-back role, which has been confirmed by Adam Simpson, which he has played before, and he has scored decently. He's priced at a 51, so needs around an 85 average to make the magic 150k mark. He likes to run and carry and prefers to kick the ball rather than handball, which is very handy. He has hit the odd ton here and there. He doesn't go huge. It looks to be around that 110 range is his ceiling. Can we fit a fifth Eagle in our sides? Personally, probably not, but he's a good pod selection if he has that halfback role. So just keep an eye on him during the pre-season.
Now, I have one thing with Jaden Hunt, and that's he loves to kick the ball, but most of the times I've seen him kick the ball for Melbourne, it's either out on the full or to completely no one. He
But
is one of the most unreliable kicks in the AFL, and he's up there with Patrick Dangerfield. But it's also the question: is he best 22?
yeah, I
I
think he
can't
is.
see him being a best 22. I can see him being a 23rd, a sub. I can see that they can see him being more impactful there with his speed. That's why I didn't go him. I can't rely his kicking, and I just don't like the bloke.
So a couple of things there. His kicking was woeful at the D's. He's now at West Coast, so it's probably worse now.
Exactly.
Um, and second, I think he is best 22. I think they brought him over because he's mature age and he's got experience. But I think if he has a bad game, he can easily drop to that 23rd sub. I think.
I just didn't like the pick, to be honest.
Yep. No, fair, fair. All right. So the last team for our team reviews are the Bulldogs. So who's your best primo?
The man-mountain version of Pinocchio himself, Marcus Bontempelli, at 639.5k, an average of 116.1. With Dunkley gone, everyone can see him getting more midfield time. And like I said, he's the Man Mountain version of Pinocchio. His average can only go up from here. He's a must start for me, unless you go for a pod choice like Mills. But you've got to go one of those two, in my opinion, in your starting team.
Yep. Yep, I've gone the Bond as well. 639k mid. We all know where this is going. 8 out of his 9 seasons that he's played, he's averaged over 100. 2022 being his highest with 119. He has found some time up forward the last few seasons with the Dogs' mid stocks and their depth, but they have lost Hunter and Dunkley, so there's a spot there waiting. You think McCrane Libber are shoe-ins for a spot, and Bond has to be the third. He won't play pure mid. He'll still spend some time up forward, but we should see an increase in his CBAs. 19 tons from his 21 games last season with two mammoth scores of 161 and 181 and a low of 88. And I'm pretty sure he only scored under 100 two times if you go 19 from 21. He's an uber premium with those numbers and a bit cheaper than your Tooks, Neils, and Callum Millses. I think he's a must have this season and he's definitely in my side and is not moving. All right, Jack, who's your best rookie?
Bruce McAvaney himself, 161.2k with a five games playing with an average of 36.6, returning from, was it an ACL or an
Yep,
MCL?
ACL.
ACL, yeah. What was that? That was the Good Friday game the year before, and he was on like 8 goals, and then he goes and does his ACL in the last quarter. Poor bastard. Um, he's confirmed himself that he's playing down back, and a lot of people are around the Bulldogs, and my contacts, as I've got a few with every club. He's looking very good. We know he's a great marker of the ball. We know he's a very good field kick. He sets up some goals as well when he's played forward. And he's got a good read on the ball,
Yep.
like in the air. He's got good timing. He's a top tier forward when it comes to footballing ability, and you add that to the defense. You look at like a Paddy McCartan last year, a very good marking forward, went down half back, and he slotted in like he's played back his whole life. I can see that with Bruce. I've been hearing he's looking the same. He looks like he's playing round one. So I can see him as a must start rookie in your forward line. And with when that DPP comes in, if he's averaging if he goes nuts and averages 90 to 100, even a bit more, he's someone we can have for most of the year that's going to just keep making money. So he's got a lot of upside to him and not a lot of downside, except for the cursed number of what is it, 33% chance of doing an ACL again.
Yep.
I know he got through the second half of last year with his 5 games, but 5 games going into a preseason new season, it's going to be more on his knee. Hopefully, it doesn't collapse. I think we all hope that, to be honest. But yeah, I'm going with the Bruce Meister, Bruce McAvaney himself.
Yep. He actually started his career as a defender. His highest average I think was around the 60 mark, so he didn't really score well. But that was when he first started. He's a lot bigger, stronger, a lot more experienced. So he's definitely in my team at the moment. And I think he pushes Liam Jones out, seeing that Jones has had a year and a bit out as well due to COVID. Yeah, I think Bruce is the way to go. My rookie is Toby McLean, 178k mid forward. Toby was Josh Dunkley before Josh Dunkley.
Hey.
In 2018, he averaged 110 in his first 10 games, with a handy 146 in there. But for some reason, after the buys, he lost the midfield role and Dunkley took over, and that's when Dunkley's scoring went through the roof. And then McLean hit a few injuries, and then after that, he completely lost his role in the spot in the team. He has a chance this season to redeem himself and can easily go 90 plus this year. and he's priced at 32. So he needs 67 to make 150k, which means we could be looking at a 200, 250k profit from McLean this season. He needs to stay fit, but is a lock in my team for now, and he should be in yours. Okay, we have our breakout and mid pricer, Jack.
My third ginger for the episode, Edward Richards the Fourth, 460.4k average, 460.4k with an average of 83.6. Jumped his average by a whopping 23 points last year. My king. Showed some big scores, but also showed some low scores. If he can be more consistent, he came back from an injury the season before, and he's had a couple of injuries here and there in the past. Fully fit year, getting back into it. I can see him being a bit more consistent, and if he does, and he pushes himself up, he could be the pod mid pricer of the year for a defender for sure. He's someone to look out for. I'm not sure if he's someone you start. It's a risky one to start, but if you start him at 460k and he comes out big, you're laughing compared to everyone who will be wasting a trade to bring him in.
Yep, so I lied at the start. I have four gingers because he's also my breakout and mid pricer. So 460k defender, another ginger on the list. Saw a change of role at the end of last season, playing more of a halfback. And 5 out of his last 6 games, he hit the ton with a high of 126 and a low score of 97 with that halfback role. Hunter out has seen Caleb Daniel play more up the field on a wing this preseason, and this helps Richards out massively. If he can hold that spot, he can easily go 100, in my opinion. Is that enough, though? At 460k, you're picking him as a keeper at that price. So go with your gut. He could be a great pod potential, but just keep an eye on his role. If he goes 105, then I think he is the selection that Jack was alluding to um, just a minute ago. All right, who's your avoid and trap, mate?
He is the cult hero coming out of Queensland, helmet boy himself, Caleb Daniel, my king, 495.2k with an average of 89.9. A few years ago, he was the must-have defender for a couple of years. Like I said, he's the hero out of Queensland. You gotta love him. He's the best ball user in the side, but that's his downfall. Luke Beveridge knows no matter where you play Caleb Daniel, he's still going to be the most accurate kick in the team. He's still going to be the most reliable ball user in the team. So he plays him fucking everywhere. He played forward pocket. He played half forward. He played half back. He played back pocket. He played in the guts. He played on the wing. The only place he didn't play was fucking ruck. With an inconsistent role, and it's just very, which shows inconsistent scoring, and it's just a huge red flag. Especially if you ask Supercoach Tinder, he's someone we are now swiping away from, not swiping to get. So sadly for me, I love him. That's my boy. It's Caleb Daniel.
Yeah, when I heard you say red flag, like this guy's been watching Love Island or something like that. Then you bring out the bloody Supercoach Tinder. I love it. Um, yeah, I agree with him pushing up on the wing. We know it's an inconsistent role that is. So, yep. I've got Adam Trelaw, your boy Jack, 530k mid. The only man I know to ping both hammies at the same time. He's usually a consistent midfielder, but at the Dogs has found himself up forward. 21
And down
games.
back.
Yep. 21 games last year, which is rare for him, but an up and down roller coaster season. Score wise, he had 8 tons with a high of 149, but a low score of 67. With the half forward role, as we know, it isn't Supercoach friendly and is a big reason why he isn't an option anymore. And also, his hammies, plural, can go at any moment.
Well, he is currently injured.
Yes, well, there
He's
you
not on.
go.
He looks like he's not going to play round one. if he had that forward DPP like last year, he's not a straight out avoid. He's a maybe, but yeah, having him last year, as much as I love him and I selected him just because he left Collingwood pretty much, he's not a great choice, even with that forward DPP. He's just a
Yep,
little too inconsistent, and his hammies do drop like Shannon Hearn.
yep, yep. Totally agree. All right, mate. Who's your under the radar pick?
My under the radar pick is the Aussie Colin de Grandhomme, the mullet boy himself, Bailey Smith, at 542k, an average of 98.6. With Dunkley gone, people, like I said, with my resources in at the Bulldogs, which are 100% unreliable and made up, there could be a lot more inside mid time for him. Which mid inside mid, there's a lot of white lines. We know he loves them. Which is definitely going to boost his average up into those mid hundreds. If he can, if he can, we saw a couple of years ago he had a forward DPP. If he can get that back, he's a certainly must get. Um, he's fallen under the radar because of that pure mid role. But unlike Will Brodie, he can run all day and not need to sit on the bench, and he gets through the banner. So I see him as a very under the radar pick. Like I said, he he showed his image as an inspiration from Colin de Grandhomme, the great New Zealand cricketer with his massive mullet. But yeah, Bailey Smith is definitely one to look out for as a mid, M8, M7, but also if he gets that forward DPP, which he does seem to get a lot, and he is a certain get for sure.
That was the greatest thing you've ever said. That was hilarious.
Thank you.
Um, just one thing. His best position is on a wing, so I think he might rotate onto that wing. But I do agree if he gets that forward DPP, he's definitely a selection. He missed out by 0.4% last year or something
Yeah,
like that. So
he was incredibly close.
yeah, so keep an eye on that. My under the radar is Tom Liberatore, 576k mid, liba.
Homer Simpson.
He's averaged over 100 in his last 3 seasons, and his highest season average of 110 in 2014 before he did his ACL. And that was playing as a pure midfielder. 13 tons from 22 games with a high of 144 and a low of 56. He loves the contest. He goes in, gets the ball, he tackles. He's the main bull for the Dogs. As I said earlier, he should have bulk CBAs and he could explode at 110 plus again. The only problem is he's also a great runner and he can play a defensive tagger role at times and he can be stuck up forward as we've
Doesn't he have
seen.
like the record for most tackles in a game or some shit like that as well?
I think he's definitely up there, yeah. But
I know he had it at some point. Someone could have taken it from him, but it was something ridiculous, like 16, 17 tackles in the one game, which when he did it, no one had seen anywhere near in the
yeah,
past.
I I know Jude Bolton got 16 in a game. But yeah, someone definitely got close recently, and it could have been him. Um, we have seen him get DPP last year, so he could definitely do that again. There's not a whole lot of value, and I think there's cheaper guys who can go more or around the same, but keep an eye on him for a possible DPP like last season.
Well, if he gets that forward DPP, like I said with the mullet man, he's a must get.
Yep, totally
He's
agree.
someone who's going to average over 100. But what most super coaches care about. He's got the second best mustache in the league. That's got to definitely hinder his performance, knowing that the great Joe Danaher has a better mustache.
Scott Lycett's up there as well. Don't forget that. All right, so that's our team reviews done. All 4 episodes done. Before I end off the podcast, Jack, do you have anything you want to add?
No, not really, no.
Uh, awesome. So that's as I said, that's it for the team reviews. One quick thing is we have a Super Coach Breakevens Unlimited group code, which is available for anyone to join. It's free. Last time I checked, we have 78 people in there. We're trying to hit 100 people, which would be great. So if you want to join that, the code is 432856.
I don't even think I'm
Okay.
in that yet.
Well, bloody join it, mate. What are you doing?
I
Um,
only just recently found out about it.
and a bit of a spoiler this week, and Jack and I are doing our Feb team reveals. So you'll see the difference of how far our teams have come. So look out for those on Sunday or Monday.
And you'll notice I practically have a whole different fucking rookie structure because I actually was able to sit down and think about what rookies to select.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so that's going to do us for the podcast. Don't forget you can hit us up on Twitter at BreakEvensPod. We are aiming for 500 followers, so go follow us on there. And on YouTube, we're trying to hit 50 followers, so click that subscribe button over, search the Breakevens, and you will find us there. Those are the two best ways you can contact us with any questions or inquiries you might have. So, as I said, that'll do it for today's podcast. So thank you again for listening and watching. And until next time, it's bye for now.
See ya.